And his
The
brother.
left hand killing
Yeah,
your mama.
her mama's 28.
Oh,
She is the moon. She is the moon at the night.
Okay. I think that's where we kind of stopped. So we stopped at the point where the right-handed twin cut off his grandmother's head and threw it into the sky, and that's where it's now the moon. So the right-handed twin has many names. One of them is sapling, means smooth, young, green, and fresh and innocent, straightforward, straight-growing, soft and pliable, teachable and trainable. These are the old ways of describing him. But since he has gone away, he has other names. He is called He Who Holds Up the Skies, Master of Life, and Great Creator. The left-handed twin also has many names. One of them is Flint. He is called the Devious One, the one covered with boils, old Bordy. He is stubborn. He is thought of as being dark in color. These two beings rule the world and keep an eye on the affairs of men. The right-handed twin, the master of life, lives in a sky world. He is content with the world he has to create and with his favorite creatures, the humans. The scent of sacred tobacco rising from the earth comes gloriously to his nostrils. In the world below lives the left-handed twin. He knows the world of men and he finds contentment in it. He hears the sounds of warfare and torture and he finds them good. In the daytime, the people have rituals which honor the right-handed twin. Through the daytime rituals, they thank the Master of Life. In the nighttime, the people dance and sing for the left-handed twin. Why? Why are they celebrating both? Because they need balance. What do they believe was in every person?
Good and evil.
Good and evil, right? So they're recognizing that both traits are necessary in nature. Okay. So while you're finishing up your plot diagram, I also passed this out to you yesterday. I don't remember if we went over what we were going to be doing with this. Did I talk to you about that? All right, so basically, this is going to be your test. This is your exam. So this is a story that we finished up today, and then we're going to read a Cherokee Tale down here. But what you're going to be doing in each of these little boxes is you're going to be creating a drawing in color that represents part of the plot. So there's 8 here, but you want to get all 6 elements in here. So don't focus all of your time on the beginning of the story, because a lot did happen. So to demonstrate what I mean, I'll draw you a picture. All right, so I'm going to just draw the very beginning scene as well as I can. So I know it's a sky world. Oh my gosh. Found sale. Wow, there's a lot of slides here. There we go. Okay, starting over. So it's a sky world, so it has clouds, I think. Oh, I think it's gonna look like this. What else did it have?
Plus,
A great tree, right? So this tree sort of had really deep roots. And then this tree had didn't it say it had all kinds of different leaves and all kinds of different fruit? So this tree had many kinds of leaves. I don't know what kind of leaf that is, but that's a different kind of leaf. And it also had different kinds of fruit, so here's some fruit. A banana. Yeah. It had some maybe some notes. Star fruit. In case you wonder.
Plus,
So we got our tree. Who else was there?
Mama.
Lady and her
Okay, so, pregnant lady, here she is. She's gonna be wearing a dress.
Bless ya.
Fringes on it, and native. She's also pregnant, so there's a pregnant lady. There's a baby in here. I can't see that, but here it is. Woo. There she
Looks
is.
mad.
She's
Oh,
bird.
never mind.
Oh.
She doesn't really have any legs, so I guess she needs to.
Are those toes?
No, those are
Those are her legs.
Oh.
Well,
Well,
Yeah,
just
here's-
one long toenail.
husband's gonna be over here. Here he is.
That was funny.
What is she drawing now?
The husband.
Oh, husband. Huh. Probably different, never mind.
He has fringes on his legs, cause you know.
What's he wearing?
That's his broad shoulders, cause he's really strong.
Oh.
So there's his crazy muscles.
He's got really like hairy legs.
And those are fringes on his pants.
Oh. Love it.
So here he goes, and he has a headdress on too, cause why not?
Heck yeah.
And he digs a hole, right?
By the tree.
Yeah.
Where's it? He has a shovel in this world. That's how he did it. There it is. There's a hole. Stuff is just flying out of it.
Magic shop.
And it's also the cloud world, so there's cloud bits that come out. Okay, so this is my attempt. I'm not a fabulous artist, but this is sort of what you'll be doing on your projects. You'll be creating a visual, and then you'll also write a full sentence at the bottom, a caption sentence to explain what's happening in your picture.
I didn't leave her.
Got it? We did. Okay. So moving along, let's move on to Cherokee now. Now that you guys are caught up with that. You can put your books away, by the way, you don't need those.
Cherokee prayer.
And then you'll be doing Cherokee.
So, like, all these times we take pictures.
Close my book. I was laying on books. I need to come all the way back in there. Put my desk right here.
Okay.
Do we have to color?
So in efforts to try to, I want to understand your thinking based on this Cherokee prayer, what you think the Cherokee people might be like. So this prayer reads, "O Great Spirit, help me always to speak the truth quietly, to listen with an open mind when others speak, and to remember the peace that you found in silence."
They're holy.
Yeah, they're holy, exactly. They actually were a really highly religious and spiritual people. They really valued their spiritual life. So the Cherokee had a really humble sense about them, and they're really reverent towards spiritual things. And before we get into the literature, I'll give you a little bit of background about the Cherokee.
I'm a Cherokee.
Who is?
I'm a
Hey, me too.
I'm
a little
like
bit.
a pinky toe
Same.
because my grandma.
I really don't know if I am or not.
I feel like there are a lot of Cherokee around this area, so. Okay, so this blue line, I don't know if you can see this picture very well, but do you see this dark blue? This is Kentucky, this is the Virginias, Carolinas, Georgia, we've got Alabama here, Tennessee. This is the original territory of the Cherokee.
Oh.
This is kind of where they resided. And actually, long ago, they had descended from the Iroquois. So this next story that we read, you may find some similarities, and that's probably not an accident. They used to be part of that major tribe, and they migrated southwards. Where were the Iroquois from? Where'd they live?
What did you say? Oh. That's funny.
Do you remember yesterday before we read the story? They lived in New York State, right? So on that eastern side all the way over to the Great Lakes. So they kind of had that whole area
Around Michigan.
northward. Okay, this red line represents the Cherokee territory after the Revolution. And the Cherokee actually sided with the British and helped them fight. So that's them. After that, this green, see how it's getting smaller and smaller? This is the very last permanent territory that they had before President Jackson removed them, and they had to walk the Trail of Tears. So as you can see, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Kind of a bummer. They actually, just like the Iroquois, they actually made permanent structures. They lived in cabins, not teepees. So they built houses out of wood too. So just to highlight someone I think is really important in Cherokee culture, his name is Sequoia. He was a silversmith.
That's a wait.
Huh?
He doesn't have earrings, does he?
I don't think he might.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was.
Yeah, he has ears. The Cherokee, they were really interested in what Europeans were doing. Like, they started assimilating and kind of bringing in their traditions slowly over time. They started to dress more European. They, at this point, they finally tried to replicate their language, their writing system. So just like any other native culture, the Cherokee didn't have a written system or a way to read anything. They didn't need that because they passed everything orally, right? So what's remarkable about this is that this man, and he was actually in the Arkansas Reservation when he created this. He started working on this, let's see, it was 1809 he started. 1815 they removed the Cherokee into the reservation in Arkansas, and he created the syllabary. He didn't know how to read or write or anything. And this is the only time in recorded history that a pre-literate society created an actually effective writing system. I think that's wild. I think that's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
So a syllabary, this is what it looks like. Some of the letters look a little bit like Greek, and some of them, this sort of looks like a Hebrew or something maybe to me. And this is like our Latin D, but it actually represents A. But a syllabary is different from our alphabet because it represents syllables rather than a single phoneme. And a phoneme is just a sound, like our letters make one sound. That's a phoneme. So I just think it's really remarkable. It shows how intelligent these people were. Actually, they surpassed the surrounding European American settlers in literacy just after they started adopting this. And that was in the span of like 10 years. They officially adopted the syllabary in 1825, and then they made a newspaper. They tried to make their own sort of Declaration of Independence type thing, so they wouldn't be separated anymore, but eventually they all ended up in Oklahoma, so it wasn't very successful. But a lot of Cherokee were resistant to it. They thought it was witchcraft. His wife actually burned some of his first workings because she thought it was evil. He had to teach it to his 6-year-old daughter. Okay, so that's a little bit about Cherokee. They really tried to get along with everyone. Now we're going to read their story. It's called How the World Was Made. And it's a lot shorter than the one we read yesterday.
What did she say?
I'll let you go, by the way.
Or she said what? Oh, I thought she said she didn't know what to do or something.
It's a little more difficult to identify some of the plot elements in this story, so I'll try to stop a lot and we'll talk about it, but make sure you're writing down notes to help you with your visual representation.
Yeah, I don't think I did that, but good try. That's a little weird.
What? Oh, fell over the desk.
Trying to get
Anything, I
you.
know she passed on the paper. Pay attention.
She didn't know.
Thank you. That's not important.
Give it to Abby.
No, we both have it.
What?
It's both written.
Oh.
Too lazy to- Too bad.
Look at you on TV right now.
I have two.
Aw. Give her the red one.
No, that's it. There's some big stuff in the handout.
I have one for that one. Yeah.
I can still read it.
Okay.
Just try to guess.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read this one out loud to you since it's so short today.
Sweet.
But we're gonna stop a lot, so I'll be asking questions.
No.
I know.
Can you like give us hints whenever we?
Who's gonna
Yeah, I'm gonna try
Got
to,
it.
because this one is a little bit trickier, I wonder. Okay, so the conflict is kind of apparent in our title, How the World Was Made. So there's gonna be a lot going on with that. Okay, this first paragraph is basically gonna be our exposition, so listen to all these little elements in this first paragraph. The earth is a great island floating in a sea of water, and suspended at each of the 4 cardinal points by a cord hanging down from the sky vault, which is of solid rock. When the world grows old and worn out, the people will die and the cords will break, and let the earth sink down into the ocean, and all will be water again. The Indians are afraid of this. What are they afraid of?
The earth falling, like sinking into water.
Right?
Well, that's what it says.
The earth coming to an end, right? Is this a common fear in most cultures?
That's what I worry about, is the earth drowning.
You worry about that sometimes? I do too, from time to time. Okay, this next part is going to be a lot of rise in action. That first paragraph. And some of this other stuff kind of fits into exposition as well. So. When all was water, the animals were above in Gallilanti, beyond the arch. But it was very much crowded, and they were wanting more room. They wondered what was below the water, and at last the Anansi, Beaver's grandchild, the little water beetle, offered to go and see if it could learn. It darted in every direction over the surface of the water, but could find no firm place to rest. Then it dived to the bottom and came up with some soft mud, which began to grow and spread on every side until it became the island which we call the earth. It was afterward fastened to the sky with 4 cords, but no one remembers who did this. So what has happened so far?
The beetle went and found
Who is the beetle like?
The beaver.
No,
The muskrat, right. So, once again, we have water, and then we have mud being brought up from the bottom of the ocean, and it becomes what?
the island.
The earth. What's Gallilanti?
Probably like their sky.
Yeah, so it's like their version of heaven. Yeah. Who's in Gallilanti? Animals. The Cherokee actually believed that animals came first and were like the gods. They spoke and they had a language and they were sacred. And so that's why the animals are up there first and not people. At first the earth was flat and very soft and wet. The animals were anxious to get down and sent out different birds to see if it was yet dry, but they found no place to alight and came back again to Gallilanti. At first it seemed to be time, and they sent out the buzzard and told him to go and make ready for them. This was the great buzzard, the father of all the buzzards we see now. He flew all over the earth, low down near the ground, and it was still soft. When he reached the Cherokee country, he was very tired, and his wings began to flap and strike the ground. And whenever they struck the earth, there was a valley, and where they turned up again, there was a mountain. When the animals above saw this, they were afraid the whole world would be mountains, so they called him back. But the Cherokee country remains full of mountains to this day. So what are they describing?
Landscape.
Landscape, right? How mountains came to be. What'd you say? No, you're totally right. She said it's kind of like Noah's Ark because he sent out the birds. And that's totally true. I think that's a great thing to point out. It's also, there's a Babylonian tale that predates the Hebrew Bible. So 6,000 years before Noah's Ark, there was a tale called Adrahasis. And in this same tale, there was the same idea, just like in Noah's Ark and this story. They sent out different birds every day to try to find dry land. So that's a theme that's sort of repeated again and again. When the earth was dry and the animals came down, it was still dark. So they got the sun and set it in a track to go every day across the island from east to west just overhead. What's our conflict so far?
Fine driving.
What is it?
Fine driving.
To find dry land? What else? It's dark too, right?
I want to find some other like
Right. So they needed to find dry land, and now it's dark.
somewhere to live. Good place.
Definitely. It was too hot this way though. And Sikigili, the red crawfish, had his shell scorched a bright red so that his meat was spoiled, and the Cherokee do not eat it. Is there any other cultures that have food laws that dictate what they should and shouldn't eat?
Yeah.
Food laws? Vegetarians, okay. Well, I mean, like, vegan stems from a Hindu belief, so they believe in not harming any creature, including milk and anything that comes from an animal. But what about in the Jewish tradition? Are there food laws there? Certain things they can't eat,
They don't eat pigs.
right? Well, in the Old Testament, in Leviticus, which was written for the Jewish people, it talks about, there's a verse that says, "Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination to you." So basically any shellfish. Anything that's not an actual fish, don't eat that. And that kind of reminds me of what the Cherokee are saying with this crawfish. They thought he was spoiled, so they didn't want to eat him. So the conjurers put the sun another handbreadth higher in the air, but it was still too hot. Then they raised it another time, and another, until it was 7 handbreadths high and just under the sky arch. What's a handbreadth? Like this, right? Have you guys heard of that trick where when you, so if you're ever outside and you don't know how many hours of daylight you have and you're lost or something, so you get the fingers, spread your fingers out and match up with the sun. And however many spaces you have until you hit the horizon in between your fingers, that's how many hours of daylight you have. So a hand breadth is basically the width of your hand. So they're counting 7 of those high is how high the sun needed to be so it wouldn't scorch everything. And that's kind of our climax too, because they finally got it under control. They set it and then they left it. This is why the conjurers call the highest place Gokwagjani di Galilantian, the 7th height, because it is 7 handbreadths above the earth. Every day the sun goes along under this arch and returns at night on the upper side to the starting place. There is another world under this, and it is like ours in everything, animals, plants, and people, save the seasons that are different. The streams that come down from the mountains are the trails by which we reach this underworld, and the springs at their heads are the doorways by which we enter. But to do this, one must fast and go to water and have one of the underground people for a guide. So is this a real place, a physical place they're describing? It is? I mean, it could be. Do you think so?
Well, they're saying you go there and you have a guide.
But what do you have to do before the guide comes? Fast for 7 days, doesn't it say? Oh, it says for 7 days. Well, when you fast, you go into an altered state, right? So likely they're talking about a spiritual or a supernatural place. And the trails are the waters, streams, and you go into underneath the earth, under the ground, through the water. So to me, this sounds like a spiritual place they're talking about, underneath the earth. Are there any other mythologies that have physical-looking roads in between worlds or realms? They're natural features, but they think they're roads. In Norse mythology, the Rainbow Road, Bifrost, connects Asgard to Midgard, and that's a road that the gods use to access different realms. So that's what that kind of reminded me of when I read this. You guys might know that. We know that the seasons in the underworld are different from ours because the water in the springs is always warmer in the winter and cooler in summer than the outer air. What are they describing? Why is the water different temperatures at different times? What happens in caves? It stays at constant temperature. So when you have a spring that comes out of a cave, the water temperature is always going to be constant. It's always going to be the same. So when the air temperature is below 60 degrees or whatever it may be, that water is going to seem really warm in the middle of winter. But during the summer, it's going to seem really cold because it's a lot colder than the air temperature. Does that make sense? So they didn't really know that, and they were trying to explain that phenomenon. When the animals and plants were first made, we do not know by whom. They were told to watch and keep awake for 7 nights, just as young men now fast and keep awake when they pray to their medicine. They tried to do this, and nearly all were awake through the first night. But the next night, several dropped off to sleep, and the third night, others were asleep, and then others, until, on the 7th night, of all the animals, only the owl and the panther and 1 or 2 others were still awake. So what are they just describing now? Right. The reason we have nocturnal animals and a special gift they get for staying awake, which was seeing in the dark, definitely. To these were given the power to see and go about in the dark, and to make prey of the birds and animals which must sleep at night. Of the trees, only the cedar, the pine, the spruce, the holly, and the laurel were awake to the end, and to them it was given to be always green, and to be for greatest medicine. But to the others it was said, because you have not endured to the end, you shall lose your hair every winter. What is the tree's hair? They're leaves, right? Well, why were these evergreen trees different? The laurel, the cedar, the pine. They stayed awake all night, right?
Yeah.
So they got a gift to stay green forever and to also be of the greatest medicine. What can you make from pine leaves? Does anyone know?
Pine sauce.
Smell it.
Is that really how it's made?
Yep, Mariah created just Swedish.
Well, you can make a pine tea, and this actually comes from Cherokee folklore. But I know some people locally who do it. You can just you make hot water and you steep pine leaves, and that tea that comes from that is supposed to be really good for your respiratory, for whenever you're sick or you have a cold. So that's why one of the gifts they were given was to be good medicine for people, because they stayed awake all night. So men came after the animals and plants. So in order of creation, what was created first? The earth, right? And then after that, what? Animals and plants. And then what happened? Well, the sun and the moon kind of got thrown in there. And then finally man. So he's always last. At first, this is the best part, you're gonna love this. At first, there were only a brother and a sister, until he struck her with a fish and told her to multiply, and so it was. So what does that kind of remind you of? Right? So this miraculous way of having children.
And then it came out her armpits.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of Adam and Eve too. Or there is a tale in the Greek about 2 survivors of the flood, Deucalion and Pyrrha, and they were the last 2 people alive, and they were really old, so they didn't have children the traditional way. And they asked, how can we ever repopulate the earth? And the gods came to them and said, well, cast the bones of your mother behind you. And they're like, what does this mean? And then they thought about it, and they're like, oh, our mother is the earth, so if we walk behind us and cast rocks behind us, and then as they looked back, there were children growing, like that's how the earth was repopulated, from the rocks cast behind us. Very interesting ideas, and that's how it is. Okay, almost done here. So in 7 days, a child was born to her, and thereafter, every 7 days another. And they increased very fast until there was danger that the world could not keep them. Then it was made that a woman should have only one child in a year, and it has been so ever since. So what were they afraid of? Overpopulation. Right. So even way back when, they were cognizant of the idea that you can't have too many people in ratio to nature, what nature can support. So if people were to repopulate in the same frequency that rabbits do, we'd be in trouble. So they recognize there needs to be balance. And that's sort of our our resolution. The balance in our breeding. The climax was when they finally got the sun hung up in the right position. The following action is everything in between. So our supernatural world, our animals and plants and their differences and gifts. Trying to get our populating under control. Alright, so I'm going to steal 5 more minutes from you guys. I wanted to show you a video. And this is from the Cherokee tradition. It is a different perspective of a creation myth. So it's not just about people, it's about the creation of a certain type of animal. But the reason I'm showing it to you is because I wanted you to see how, in some small way, this was meant to be performed and told orally, not set down and read. So try to be respectful. I know that she does have an accent. She is from, I think, an Appalachian region, but do be respectful.
The old ones say that long ago, the Creator created the world and everything in the world. Now, Creator lived up in Galalante up above, and he looked down at the world that he had created, and he was happy with his world. He was pleased with that world. And his most favorite thing to do was to look down at the earth and watch the children as they ran, and they laughed and they played, and oh, it made Creator so happy. But one day, as he watched these children, oh, he had a sad thought. He felt as if his heart would break, because as he looked at these children run and play, he realized that one day these children would grow old. They would hurt, they'd ache, they would become crippled, and their teeth would fall out. Creator, he was in a bad mood, and he didn't like to be in a bad mood. And he's up there in Galalante walking around in that bad mood. He thought, I must do something to rid myself of this bad mood. Now, Creator had a little deerskin bike. With his mighty hand, he reached out and he took a tiny bit of blue color from the sky. And he dropped that color into the bike. And then he reached out and took some big yellow, pink, purple, white, orange, even black and brown, and he put those colors into that bike. And flying by at that moment was a bird singing his song. And Creator reached out bird song in the Bible. Now, Creator began to shake, mix and shake and mix, and he thought, no, can't I put it yet? Let's shake it up some. And finally, he was so impatient, he couldn't wait no longer. And he opened that bag. He did not know what was in the bag. And out came this beautiful creature of all the beautiful colors of the earth, singing the song of the bird. And that creature flew down to earth among the children. Look on their hair. And Creator was happy again. The world was good. The bird came to Creator and said, Creator, I want to talk to you. Creator said, okay, what are we going to talk about? Oh, you have done something very wrong to the birds. What did I do? You took our song and you gave it to that new creature. Our beauty was in our song, and we want our song back. The Creator thought about what he had done, and he realized that it was wrong. And with that mighty hand, he reached out, took that song from the new creature, gave that song back to the birds, and to this day, the beauty of the birds is in their song, but the beauty of the butterfly is in the colors of its wings, and he is completely silent. So next time you see a butterfly, you listen real close. See what you hear.
A watered down modern performance. So, since you guys didn't get to your test yesterday that you were supposed to do, well, we thought you already did it, but you really didn't. We're going to use the rest of the time to do that. Everyone except for Brooke, Bryant, Daniel, and Dakota.
I already did it.
So, you guys, well, work on drawing there's colored pencils here. You can work the rest of the time on drawing your visual.
You have to color it?
Yeah, I need to have color.
It's a story. It's past. You guys can give them back.
You
They
want
can
to
give me back our stories.
Huh?
These stories.
If you don't want to keep them, if you're not going to refer to them, I'll take them back.
I might keep them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wait, you said I need one?
You don't need one now. He has finished, so I'll come get it. plot diagram on the back, what we're going to talk about. Still have a couple minutes, so if you guys want to partner and talk about plotting, get any kind of work done, you can. You're working. What? You're working. Oh, working. Sure, no ideas. I was on my phone. I just down the road over there. That's all. Yeah. She's doing that around. I ain't getting out. So tomorrow, bring your plot notes, your visuals, with the Venn diagram on the back of your book.
Done? You said done?
Was she like super serious?
You say done?
No, let's bring it with you.
Oh,
I'm gonna go over the next part.
No.
Well, that's not how I play it. I do it
Jessica,
where
are you not feeling
hold
well?
off and you say even and then you go, I can't do it. I can't. It's not, I know.
That's what we forgot to do.
You get it done for one.
Oh, we did.
And then even Ozzy was the
But either way,
Hey, at least we remember it every day.
How much study you got? Or can you just give it to me tomorrow?
This is the prettiest color. Now this is like, if I was a color, I'd be this color.
Megan doesn't want to.
He told me, I said,
second one.
yeah, I want to go on, but I'm saying, I'm not.
Do it.
Oh, wow, it's a match. We haven't played it in so long. I don't know.
We played dodgeball once.
She's funny. Rick, go away.
It is fun. You have so much fun. Are you?
You're young.
It looks like, wait, stop that.
Okay, so tomorrow you're not gonna line up at the door, right? No. What? What's she saying? Line up at the door tomorrow.
I didn't say you couldn't play. I just said I didn't want to play.